Okay, we're here on Bounce Around Charleston, and we thank you for joining us. I have here standing with me Linda Dennis, representing the Team Backpack Journalist. She's got some interesting things to tell us because she met a wonderful movie maker this past weekend by the name of Danny Glover. Welcome to Bounce Around Charleston.
Thank you. Team Backpack Journalists had the honor this past weekend of attending the Civil Rights Fest here held in Charleston, and their guest was Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Right, and he produced a movie called Freedom Song in the, I guess, early 90s about civil rights in Mississippi. He screened the movie with us. However, before all that took place, we were behind the scenes with him, and it was quite an honor.
You were able to go behind the scenes and sit down and talk to him up close.
Up close, like sitting next to him on a sofa. In fact, when they said, Mr. Glover, we have to go, he said, no, I want to stay talking to these kids. So we were very honored to be with him.
Wow, well, he was happy to do that. So that was a wonderful event for the children. How did they feel?
They were in a state of shock at first, and then in awe of him. He was very gracious. His whole commentary focused on what can we do going forward to make it better for all of us. So very smart man, and we were so pleased to be with him.
Okay, so tell me, what is actually Team Backpack Journalists?
We are an after-school program. We meet at the city of Charleston. We also meet across the bridge now in Mount Pleasant at East Cooper Montessori Charter School. We have many projects that we work on, and one of the projects is a filmmakers camp this summer at Burke. It'll be held at Burke High School for 1 week, and then we go across the bridge and hold it for the next week. We're very pleased to share with you and all of your viewers that one of our topics this summer is the life of Esau Jenkins. And we have begun the research. We've been to Avery Center. We've talked to some of his family members. And if any of you out there, any of you know any stories about Mr. Esau you'd like to share, please let us know, because we're going to start building it at Burke, and we hope to continue through the weeks.
And his story is being told at the Smithsonian.
It is, yes. They've got part of his car up there. We fell in love with the story when we went to the send-off in September. So our program, we teach scholastic journalism, writing and photography and filmmaking.
Okay, so now you were able to share, I guess, a lot of this with Danny Glover.
Yes, we were.
And then you all had an interview with him.
Yes, we did.
So why don't you tell us, lead us into that?
Well, how about let's just take a look at it. We actually brought the interview with us today, so take a look at what Mr. Glover shared with us.
Let's take a look at it.
For us, as the next generation of actors and filmmakers, what can we do to help unravel slavery and do what it needs to be done to move forward with our country together in order to forward this country as a unity?
Well, we have to, in some sense, and I'm using the word pretend it didn't happen. We have to, it's part of the amnesia that we have and the problem we have with historic amnesia. I was talking to David Wolper, who produced, his father produced, Mark Wolper produced, or is it David produced or Mark produced, one of them produced, the father who produced The New Roots. He said, I'm doing this for my children. Roots came out 40 years ago, and my children don't know anything about it. They have no knowledge of it. They are whatever, it's been erased. The ideas have been erased, you know. And then there's been books that come out and that we've seen in the past. Blackman's Slavery by Another Name, and also a great book that was done by Edward Baptist, called Half Never Been Told, Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism. It's an extraordinary study of an informational sense. So then books comes out who tell you what role does slavery play. Blackman book takes place after Reconstruction, and construction modes of imprisonment and involuntary slavery that happens. We have to know that stuff. If you don't act on that, if you don't have empathy for people's struggle and understand their struggle and everything else, then it's easy for you to just place them aside and thereby further diminishing them, you know. There's a reason for that. And Blackman, who came from, I think, from Alabama, Mississippi, he said, I couldn't accept the fact that black people were ordained to have this. Something had to happen in the process. in the process after the end of slavery. W.E. Du Bois's incredible book, The Souls of Black Folk, talks about, in his talks about the ways in which African Americans, he wrote this in 1903, former slaves, took on the responsibility of learning, becoming politicized, and all those things. He writes this in 1903. He talks about that, Bois born in 1968, lived 95 years, died on the eve of the March on Washington. In New York, Massachusetts, where he was born. He was the first graduate from Harvard University with a doctorate degree from a graduate from Harvard University. All these things, but the thinking, the idea, placing person in a moment in history in which their radical things had to happen. Eugene Debs, never heard of Eugene Debs, a labor unionist who ran from prison for president because he was in prison because of sedition, because he didn't support World War I. You know, Emma Goldman, a suffrage movement. All these were the kind of thinkers that at that particular point in time. In history, we have to know all that and understand the kind of radical response to what was happening. I was telling the story about Harry Bridges, the great labor unionist in San Francisco, who went around to every black church in the Bay Area in 1934 during the general strike and said, if you don't cross the picket lines, if you don't become scabs, I promise you that there'd be black men on the docks. That's real change. And he kept his promise. Black men were on the docks after they won. He said, after we win the strike, which means that we're gonna win the strike, and this is what my promise. Those are the kind of history, that's the kind of history that you need to know. What did people do? What did people do at various points in time in response to that? The great abolitionist movements, John Brown, Frederick Douglass, all of them.
Wow, what a wonderful interview with Danny Glover.
I think the best part was at the very end when he reached over and took Carson's hand and just squeezed her hand and said, what a darling girl. So I think it shocked us all, but he was so gracious.
But that's something that she will never forget.
She'll never forget that. No, you're right.
Okay, now, you have something called Inspire.
We do. It's called Inspire in the Low Country. It is our filmmakers camp that's being held this summer, 1 week at Burke and 1 week across the river at East Cooper Montessori School.
And when the kids come into the camp, what will they learn?
Well, they're going to learn how to make a film. And for Burke, we've chosen 3 topics. One is the life of Esau Jenkins. The other is we'll actually be bringing drones in to the South Carolina Port Authority, where the kids will actually go on the whole coastline and be telling the story of the South Carolina economic engine, which is quite impressive.
Okay, so how does a young person become a part of?
All they have to do is shoot us an email at charleston@abackpackjournalist.com and we'll send you all the information. We have some slots available at Burke and we have some available across the river at East Cooper Montessori.
The students from 4th to 12th grades? 4th
to 12th grade. And if you're older we encourage you to come to Burke for that week because we have some special guests coming from Apple. The Apple engineers are coming to show us how to edit and do some cool things with film.
What motivated you to get into this?
Well, I couldn't retire, so we just decided this would be a fun thing to do with kids, is to come in the afternoons after school. And most of our students attend some of the Title I schools, and it's a way of kind of showing folks, young people, there's a lot out there for them to go for, choose for, be educated for. We're very pleased. We've had Hendrick Automobiling people helping us. Kids have learned how to build cars. We've gone to the Port Authority before. We made 7 films last year at our Inspire camp.
Okay, some of the kids that have gone through your camp, have you heard any stories from them since they've moved on?
Oh, absolutely. We just finished a film. We collected oral histories of Vietnam veterans. That film has now made it into Washington, D.C. It now travels with The Wall That Heals. It also is being presented all across the country, and the kids just have gotten so much out of it. Their parents alone have written us and said, this is very motivational. It helps our children understand telling stories, gathering stories in the life of a veteran. So yes, we do hear good things.
Well, Linda Dennis, we thank you and the Team Backpack Journalists for doing the great work that you're doing.
Well, I wish the kids were here rather than me because they speak for it better than I do. They're just our great ambassadors everywhere they go.
And if someone wanted to contact you, what do they need to do?
The easiest way to do is just go online, abackpackjournalist.com, or they can go to our Facebook page. They can send an email to charleston@backpackjournalist.com.
Okay. Linda Dennis, thank you for being here on
Thank
Bounce
you
Around
very
Charleston.
much. Thank you.
Every time you do something wonderful, give us a call.
We'll be back soon.
Right here on Bounce Around Charleston. And coming up next, you want to start a business and you have no money? I have a young lady, Natasha Weston is her name, and she'll be back here to tell you all about getting that done. Right back after this break.